What is going on in Wolfpack Nation? This is Macon Adams and Michael Tracy here, and we have just had like a unbelievable ending to this game. I didn't get to watch a ton of it because I was doing Thanksgiving stuff, and I hope everybody's had a really great Thanksgiving. But man, that has to be one of the greatest endings to an NC State UNC game I've ever seen. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, just any NC State game, period. There's Leighton.
Yeah, what's up,
Checking
everybody?
in.
Yeah, and for those listening in, I'm actually here at a close family friends of mine wedding, but I couldn't let you, Macon and Michael, have all the fun by yourself. After a big win like that, I had to at least jump in for at least a minute or two here and just kind of add in my 2 cents here. So,
what are your thoughts, Leighton? You go first since you got your short on time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, for me, again, the first thing I want to say is, I know that a lot of people that I was seeing on social media were kind of talking about, statistically, defense-wise, we were terrible. Defense-wise, we just could not stop the run. To save us, and also too, obviously on the offensive side, for me, it really felt like that Leary took too many sacks. I really do think that Friday kind of taught me that definitely Leary needs to just again learn a little bit more about when to get the ball away. Just get rid of it. If it's not working, don't necessarily try and be a hero. Get rid of the ball. But again, for me, at the end of the day, you can't look at the stats for that game, because at the end of the day, for us to once again find a way, and even the toughest of moments, we're literally probably 90% of the teams could not find a way to beat a team like Carolina, who again is a solid team, and to find a way to fight back and find a way to win, I think says so much about Doran and this team and this program and where it's heading. You know what I mean? For me, I just feel like yesterday that you got to ignore the stats. You got to ignore the stats. At the end of the day, we found a way to win. Because again, understand, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, every football team is going to have those days where they're not playing their best. But can they find a way to win the football game? And for us to do that again against in a moment where there was so much on the line, going undefeated at home, having still a shot at going to the Eastern Championship game and beating our rival for the first time in 3 years, to find a way. And for a guy like Emeka to show up, have 2 huge touchdowns, oh my gosh, like that guy for me, those last 2 minutes for me just absolutely catapulted him into the top 5 wide receivers of all time for me. There's not many wide receivers that can make plays like he did on Friday night, in my opinion.
My thing was, man, he just became a legend. Like
he
what
did.
That, and Leary did too. Leary did too. To me, when you look at what Leary's been able to do, there's like pros and cons to him being able to play in this game, like as a quarterback. One thing he is clutch, man. Think about how many times we go into like a halftime or we're going to end the game. Particularly, I could think of more so going to halftime in the last a minute or two left on the clock. And how many times have we scored this? It's got to be like 4 or 5 times going in halftime. We've scored a touchdown or a field goal at least. And
absolutely,
like that ending, I know everybody's seen it, but it was a 99.9% chance UNC was going to win
that football game.
When we were when we got the ball back after they kicked that field goal, and it was like the 2nd and 18.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yep. But guys, I'm going to go ahead and jump off. I'll let you guys continue this conversation. But I just want to give a shout out to Wolfpack Nation after a huge win Friday night to finish off the season 9-3 and give us a great shot here going 10-3 in a bowl game. And at the end of the day, there's no doubt future is bright for NC State football heading into next season and heading into even this bowl game for sure. So just wanted to jump on to give a shout out, but got to go. Unfortunately, got to go dance with my wife. So I'll let y'all to it.
Nothing unfortunate about that, man.
All right, Wolfpack Nation, go Pack, y'all.
Pack, man, that's awesome. Yeah, we like I said, I can't get over that. I know I see you guys commenting over here. I tend to think with Leighton, like I still want to look at the stats, but my thing is you've got to just enjoy this, because this game, if that play had not happened, we would be having a totally different conversation.
Yeah.
So State needs to just enjoy this. Like, okay, regardless of how like majority of the game went, who cares? Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Won.
It's like, a game. I'm sure you saw the other stat also, teams this year that were down more than 9 points with less than
Mm-hmm.
2.5 minutes left. We're like, and 450 or something. And it's just like, yeah. So of course, when you look at the stats, when you're down that late, of course that we didn't play a good game. Like statistically, we should not have won that game. We just shouldn't have, and somehow we did. And that stuff, like you said, that's one of the most exciting state games against Carolina, against anybody really. Just the way we won that game that I've ever seen, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be fans out there that are talking about how frustrating it was we played and like don't want to enjoy this as much as they probably should. But like we can talk some of the negatives of the game because it deserves it to a degree. But at the end of the day, it needs to be overshadowed by the victory and what this means for the team and the program. I mean, you look at it, Carolina's not a great team, but that's the greatest quarterback Carolina's ever had.
Yeah.
And if he had won, they would have been able to say, oh, I mean, they had like News and Observer had the news article already put out on Twitter that said like, Howell remains, is undefeated against NC State and State's not able to come. They put that out before the end of the game. And to me, I wasn't able to watch majority of the game, and I got to turn the game on the last like 5 minutes or so after my family, my wife's family, and I had done our side of the Thanksgiving stuff. And I mean, I watched it on my phone, sitting in our bedroom, just kind of waiting, in and out to go to sleep, and I could not believe it. I mean that, and I think we were talking about Leary and Emeka, but Chris getting that onside field goal, and apparently. From what the word I've seen is that he was one of the guys who had the flu, and he did not practice much at all this week. So to be able to make a play like that, I mean that's
crazy. It was
perfect. How many dominoes had to fall in line for that all to happen correctly?
A lot. Like they could have UNC could have gone for it on that fourth down when they were up 6, and basically ran the time off the clock. I mean, they probably would have had to get 1 or 2 more first downs, but they could have gone for it on fourth down and then iced the game there. But they decided to kick it instead, and it was a 51-yarder, and he nailed it. And at that point, it just like you said, it was a 99.9% chance. And the blown coverage on the first Emeka touchdown, then the onside kick that was perfect. The UNC guy tried to like take out Dunn. He tried, instead of like go for the ball, he tried to hit Dunn so he couldn't recover it, and somehow it ended up right in his arms instead. Mm-hmm. So the way they planned to recover that, and then again that final catch by Emezi, it was kind of a 50-50 ball. He was covered pretty well. It was just kind of a 50-50 ball that Leary trusted him enough, and I don't doubt that he had that trust. And
they said it. I think in the post game there. Yeah, I don't think in the post game. I don't know if it was Doran or who it was, but they said when they look to see where they're going to kick on the onside, they just look at numbers. So if there's like an advantage blocking on one side versus the other, that's where they're going to kick it. And in this case, kicking up in the middle, UNC left 2 defenders or 2, I guess, the guys on the receiving side there in the middle. So you had 2 guys next to Dunn plus Dunn, so it's like a 3-on-2. That's why they kicked it up the middle. And I don't know. We need to get all into it, but I do want to break down the stats so we can look at it a little bit. And so looking back on it, if you just look at these stats, they don't tell the whole story, and it looks very even. I would say if you think about it, it felt that Carolina just outplayed State, at least for about maybe 2.5 quarters or so.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say the definitely the 2 middle quarters and up until the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, and then we dominated the first quarter as well. So it was about that 2.5 middle quarters there.
But I'm just going to run down the stats for everybody in case you hadn't seen it. I know if you listen to post-game radio stuff, you probably already heard it, but both teams were like with 22, 21 first downs. Third down efficiency, both teams were terrible. Carolina was 4 for 14, and we were second. We were 2 for 10 on third down. Carolina converted their 2 fourth down conversions. But the thing that I thought was interesting was that, Carolina ran the ball 297 yards. We ran it 113. So that is, that's about where we have been, maybe a little bit better at times running the ball. But we were able to throw the ball really well on them. And, when I was watching us run the ball a lot against them. And I've seen the stats where over the last 5, 6, 7 years, the team that's had the most rushing yards has won in this series. And I feel like that was State's matchup. Maybe they saw on tape that they thought Carolina's defensive front would not be able to really match up well against our offensive line. But I wasn't crazy about that approach, because I think Leary's arguably your best player on offense, if it's not Aquanu at this point. He just broke Phillip Rivers' touchdown record. But that's one thing I saw that's interesting, because you think of Sam Howell as being again, he's their greatest quarterback UNC's probably ever had. And they finished, 6-6 with him?
Right.
So what do you think on that?
It not letting him go 3-0 against us, it felt pretty good. I will say that. But like you were saying, Leary, ever since Zavala went down, we've had struggled running the ball. We had some success in the first quarter running the ball. Person had a drive where he pretty much carried it down the field the whole time. Bam Knight had another drive where he was pretty much the main ball carrier. But then after that first quarter, we kind of went away from it a little bit, and we struggled. And like you said, Leary broke in that game. It kind of quietly broke Phillip Rivers' record because it got overshadowed by the comeback. But those last 2 touchdowns tied him and then passed his record. So I think it's no doubt that Leary's been our best offensive player.
And it took the last 2 minutes to beat the record, because if he didn't make those plays last 2, he wouldn't have had it. That's one thing that makes it even more special to me. But yeah, I think, if you look at the stats too, and we talk about the comparison has been Howe versus Leary, in the triangle. And in the few games Leary played last season, I think I put up something on our account for Twitter that said, here's player A and player B through 3 games or 4 games, whatever it was. Player A's got these stats, player B's got these stats. Who are they? And they were so similar, but the ones that was slightly better were Leary. And if you look at last night, Howell was 14 of 26, so he completed just over 50% of his passes. 147 yards, 1 touchdown through the air, 1 rushing touchdown. He had 97 rushing yards. So him and Leary together, they both had the same amount of offensive yards put up for the most part. But Howell did half of his damage essentially on the ground. But the QB rating for Howell was 106.3. Devin Leary was 176.5. Leary had 4 passing touchdowns, 247 yards in the air, 19 for 30. So you're looking right at about 64% completion percentage to Sam Howell's 54%.
Yeah. Leary's just been more efficient.
Yeah. And I tell you what, man, the fact that we were Carolina, when they went to score near the end of the game, they were putting up field goals instead of touchdowns. That was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys thought about that, but the way this game played out, the blocked punt at the very beginning of the game. I mean, I thought when I saw the score, it was 14-0. I thought, we're going to steamroll them.
I know.
I mean, it ended up being a rivalry game, where it's very close. But I mean, what are your thoughts about Howell and Leary being compared to the two? Would you take Howell over Leary, or would you take Leary over Howell? I mean, I would take Leary because I think I like the stats better.
Yeah, I mean, it just obviously Howell has that running ability he's shown this year, which he really didn't show last year, but he's kind of had to do that to pick up the slack from UNC losing.
Right.
Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, but he does have that running ability. But just by pure passing wise, Leary has shown he's more efficient. He takes care of the ball better. And like you said, last year before Leary got hurt, through the first 4 games, and Leary didn't even play our first game last year against Wake Forest. He didn't play that game, and he still had like close to, if not better than Howell's numbers last year through the first 4 games that he got hurt.
Yeah.
So like obviously we're a little bit biased, but
yeah,
I would take Leary too.
So let me ask you this question. It's kind of going into a bit bigger. Well, let me ask you, do you think Howell should have played the game?
Like injury wise, you mean?
I'm just talking about, what he was able to accomplish if he had won or if he hadn't won. Because to me, he's probably at least a 2nd round pick now. I know he's not where he was leading into the season as far as draft potential. But I mean, if he had won, he would have been able to say, "Yep, undefeated against NC State, lock in a bowl game." Although at this point, 6 wins is basically a lock because there's so many bowl games.
Yeah.
I don't know what you really gain unless you just destroyed NC State's defense through the air and the ground, which they didn't really do that in through the air. I would say it's a little bit of an underwhelming performance from Hal. It was enough to win for them, but they didn't, because I think State made the clutch plays. But Hal's out there running around, not playing 100%, and I don't know what I mean. Unless I guess he's a competitor, but I don't know if I would have played him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think if it would have been like if the games were flipped and like they played us last week and then we're playing Wofford this week, I don't think he would have played. Like obviously he didn't play last week against Wofford, but I can't blame him for playing his last game. He knew it was going to be his last game against your rival.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't tell, at least, that he's, there are rumors he may not start because he's hurt, not because he was choosing to sit out, but because he's hurt. He looked just as good as pretty much just as good as he had all season. I mean, man, we had so many missed tackles on him. He's tough.
He's hard to bring down. Yeah,
yeah,
he's hard to bring down. He's a stockier dude.
Yeah.
And he's a great player. I mean, I'm not taking that away from him. It just, I don't know what you gain by playing to a degree, other than to be able to say that. And if you want to go stuff, but in comparison, I don't know if I would have, but I'm not Mac Brown. But having said that, if you're UNC looking at Mac Brown right now, how good do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some questions.
Because he just took the greatest quarterback they've ever had and went 6-6. And
you
maybe you played well enough, but State made the clutch plays at the end, and I don't know, they went 8-4 last season, 6-6 this season on within the backside of Hal's tenure at UNC. I'm just not really impressed. Like, I saw that Joe Giglio had a quote one. I think he put an article that said Joe Giglio put a quote out that said something to the effect of, State has earned the respect where Carolina was just given their respect without earning it.
Yeah. I saw that. I read that too yesterday. Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I think you're always gonna get that hype. I mean, Max he's got the number 1 recruiting class in the ACC for next year. Like you can always lean on that as we're building the program here, and it's just like it. Yeah, they've underperformed this year, but he can be like, look, I've got the number 1 class coming in next year, and we'll just keep building. And it's like, I don't know. But it's definitely, I definitely wouldn't feel great right now if I was a Carolina fan.
I know. I love
3
it.
years.
It makes me happy.
Yeah.
But I saw Greg put up here, it said Mac is 21-16 since coming back. So what is that, like 58% or so, 60%? It's not bad, but it's not great. I mean, and in 3 years, right? It's in 3 years, I believe. So
Yeah.
I saw in game 14 alpha had Mac is back. My saying to that is Mac is whack. That's mine. So like I just feel like it's the glamour of, or the glitter and glamour of Mac Brown, and showing off the Texas national championship trophy to the recruits as if Carolina won it. And we do get the recruit. I mean, Carolina's always going to have great recruiting classes, but like we've all seen, they don't do anything with it. And
Right.
I don't know what Carolina should do. I mean, it's funny to me. It just makes me laugh, makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't think there's any chance he gets fired, or I mean, I don't even think he's on the hot seat next year. I think if they underperform again next year, then maybe the year after that, 2023, he may be on the hot seat. But like,
Yeah,
it's still pretty early. He's doing great in recruiting, so But like you said, I wouldn't feel great as a Carolina fan.
yeah. I was, and then I saw somebody posted like a screenshot on Twitter of, maybe it was there or somewhere else. I saw it was like a screenshot of the thread topics on Inside Carolina's forum board, and it's just a total meltdown over there. And I mean, I always thought that it's going to be Phil Longo is going to end up being the guy that takes over. Like Mac's going to groom him, and then Phil Longo's going to be the coach. I don't really know if I feel confident with that. I mean, their offense has been like, they can explode. That's what always worried me about Carolina, but they don't wow me on offense. Not this year. Last year, yeah, they looked good, but they still went 8-4. And we're talking about Carolina, and I feel like we to a degree we need to. And yeah, they played well for about 2.5 quarters, but State made the plays that they needed to make at the end where Carolina didn't. Do you think it was more of a thing where State made the clutch plays, or do you think it was more of a Carolina choked, or do you think it was both?
I think it was both, because I mean, if you look at the 2 touchdowns, the first one to Emezi was obviously a blown coverage somewhere. I think it was probably on the safety, because Emezi was open by 10 yards. And then I think getting the onside kick, onside kick, that's pretty much luck. It's literally the way the ball bounces is who's going to get it.
Max said something. Mac Brown said in his post-game comments I read that he said like he has seen a statistic that said like it's 22% chance to recover an onside kick. Something really low.
Like you literally have to have the ball bounce directly your way, and then that's what happened. And then the game-winning touchdown was just kind of a 50-50 ball where Emezi just went up and grabbed it. So I think it was a little bit of both.
Yeah. And did you catch Dave Dorn's post-game comment where he said that him and Beck were like, "Hey, do you want to just run it here?" And he's like, "No, give it to Leary. Let him throw the ball. Let him roll. He's on a roller base or something to that effect."
Yeah,
I love that. I love that.
Beck asked Dorn if he just wanted to run it and set it up for a field goal, and Dorn said no. I think he said no. Devin's hot. Let's go score. So
yeah,
that was awesome.
And it's awesome. You know, the coaches can make the calls, but the players are the ones that got to go make the plays.
Yeah,
like we can get map set. Like I can think about some plays last night where we can get like I put it this way. I can think of the games we've lost. And you can put it on the coaches to a degree sometimes, depending on the call situation. Like, if we are like, I don't know, not 1st and 10, but like I'm thinking like, let's say we're like 2nd and long and we're running the ball, or 3rd and long and we're running the ball, or like a shallow screen on like 3rd and 18. Like, is that really the right play? That's one thing. But then there's plays where like the guy's just dropping the ball like that. I know he hit the one Devin Carter.
Yep, that one I was about to say against Miami, wide open.
Yeah, twice I think. But I mean, the thing I don't know. I just think it's, to me, those players who made those plays, and in particular the ones like we've seen, like Leary and Mecca, Chris, that made that happen. And then you got, I mean, all those the offensive linemen hadn't held them enough time, given enough time to make those plays. But
yeah,
I
mean
mean,
they UNC got 6. I think it was 6 sacks last night or Friday night. So
Yeah.
I mean they had plenty of pressure all night.
So let's talk about this because we're now at the end of the regular season. State's obviously now 9-3. It's the first time a coach in NC State history has had 3 9-win seasons, and it was just 2 years ago. I believe it was 2019, the 2019 season, where we were just terrible because of all those injuries.
3-9. Yeah.
What does now that we've ended the season and we still got a chance to get 10 wins, and I think maybe this was a fair question to ask after the 10 wins, if we can get it, or after the bowl game, I should say. What are your thoughts about Dave Doeren now? I'm not saying you had bad thoughts about him, but where does he stand in NC State history to you and to everybody listening? Like, what are your thoughts about Doeren? You know, give us comments and we'll try to have a discussion with y'all about it. But you go, Mike. What are your thoughts about Doeren?
I mean, like you said, after that 3-9 season in 2019, it was just like, man, we had a lot of injuries, but it was also like, still, that was year 7 of Doeren. It's like, that's tough. And I'll be like, after that year, I was kind of shaky. And then, you know, last year, the COVID year, 2020, we went 8-4. I thought that was a really good job. And then this year really has solidified. Like I really have no concerns. I mean, as long as he keeps us, you know, at this level. Obviously, you don't want to see him go back to 6-6 next year,
right?
But you know, if you stay competitive at this level in the hunt for winning the Atlantic, I mean, it's tough to say all time where I put him. I'd say at this point, it's at least in my lifetime, he's
the best one I've seen personally.
Yeah.
I know I'm younger than some of the guys on here, but
yeah,
he's got to be like top 2 coaches we've had, top 3 right now. And what
I'd like
he's
to
doing,
look at win percentage too, because there was only so many games. But
yeah. I mean, I don't say the teams they're playing now are tougher, but I mean, he's having to do this in a division that's been mostly owned by Clemson the last 10 years, and
Florida State before that.
Yeah,
I mean, he wasn't really here, but
I mean, we're talking like going back to 2017. You know, or put it this way, he had 2014 was his. You know, he went 8-4. I mean, 8-5, excuse me, with the bowl game. 7-6, 7-6. And then you get to 2017. You go 9-4, 9-4. The one bad season in 2019 being going 4-8. Then you get back the next year to 8-4, and now you're at 9-3 with a chance to get 10 wins. That's, I mean, the fact that he's only coach that's had 3 9+ seasons in NC State history, and he's got a quarterback that really could come back. I don't know what Devin's going to think, but Devin could come back, and I would say it's on the side more that it's more likely that he'll come back than it is unlikely.
Yeah,
he just broke Phillip Rivers' record for single season touchdowns. He's got, I mean, you look at the snap chart for this team, the class that's leading for the majority of the games we play this season, other than maybe like 2 or 3, sophomores are leading the snap count, whether they're redshirt or true sophomores. I'm just, man, I know people wanted his head in 2019, but I saw in game 14 off, I said extension. I feel like there's got to be a conversation after the season.
I mean, because he got that extension in before the 2019 season, which was through 2023. I could see there being another 3 or 4 year extension after this season.
Putting him through something like 2026, 2027, 28, something like that. I mean, he's building, and to me, that this win again, we people think could argue we should have lost. Like, who cares? We've already said that we won. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Don't let that bring it down, and don't let a Carolina fan bring it down because you say, hey, at the end of the day, we made the plays and you didn't. But man, what that could mean on the recruiting side of things too, because you've got some really strong players that I've seen the staff in recruiting. Let's get back.
Yeah.
Like you saw, I know one guy, I can't remember who it was. There's a 4-star defensive end that came to visit for the game, and he's put his video up on Twitter. And he's losing his mind in the recruit section watching the game. Like that kind of game and what that means. And at 9-3, heck, you get to 10-2 or 10-3. That sounds a lot. You could pitch that to players. I just think Doran has got this on track, and it shows that 2019 was a fluke.
Yeah, and that was a fluke, and that also is a reason why we're doing so well this year, because a lot of the, I guess, like you said, redshirt sophomores had to play as true freshmen in 2019 because of all the injuries. So now they've had that experience in this year because we've also had more injuries. Some were starting, some are already starting, some had to step up, and I think that game experience from 2019 and 2020 helped with that.
Yeah. I see Russell Oral's comment says some will argue that this was the year to get some get the year that get the division based on Clemson having a bit of a down year. And what are our thoughts about that? What are your thoughts, Michael?
A bit of a down year, yes. But at the same time, it's always easier when Clemson's not 12-0 to win the division. At the same time, that doesn't mean other teams also can't be good, like Wake Forest. And we were right there. We were. Yeah. It's not like we were finished in last and Clemson finished second to last. It's like we were second. We finished second in division and lost the two ACC losses, 1 point to Miami, 3 points to Wake. Technically, the Miami loss didn't really matter. We still only had to beat Wake. If we had beat Wake, we would have.
Yeah, I wish we could have that game back. I know State fans do wish we could have that game back. But man, it was the one most historic season for Wake Forest they've ever had, and I won't take that as a shot against Dave Doran. They still put up 42 points on them. I think you're just looking at Wake Forest having and I think State was a better team that night against Wake Forest. But you got to think how lucky Wake has been this season. Like you mentioned in our text thread, we have Michael about who they've played, and the fact that they're Carolina. Back in 2015, they scheduled the Carolina game as a non-conference game, and it ended up being like they lose that game, but it doesn't matter. And it was like a really critical loss this season for them that did not impact them at all. Like that's lucky. And but go ahead.
At the same time, it's like I said I know this is dumb to look at scheduling because it's like you can only play who you can play, and like UNC when they scheduled them, they could have been really good or they could have been really bad. And if they didn't schedule UNC, they probably would have scheduled just some other cupcake game that they would have won easily. But looking at ours and Wake Forest's schedule, common opponents, we were 8-0 against them. And then the three other games that Wake played that we didn't was Army, Virginia, and Duke, where we played Mississippi State, Miami, and Louisiana Tech. So, the three games that were different, theirs were, I think, were a little bit easier than our three, and two of our losses came out of those three games. So, like I said, I know it's dumb to look at, but
yeah, no, it's part of it. And so when you say that, like to me, the fact that Dave Doran can say that he's got the quarterback still on the roster that could still come back, that just beat Phillip Rivers' touchdown season record. The fact that he can say, I'm the only coach in NC State history that has won 9 wins 3 times in my tenure, that he's beaten. Now he can say, yeah, we've beaten Sam Howell, we've beaten Mac Brown, at home, and in a rivalry game, we did that,
Right.
and we earned our respect. We're earning our rankings. We didn't just get put up there, and I just think there's a lot of momentum there. And you could bring back. You already said Cyrus Fagan are coming back. Cyrus Fagan's coming back.
Yep.
You've got Payne Wilson is still undecided, but you got Isaiah Moore coming back. I know Ricky said he's going to be going away, but man, Jordan Houston's going to have. I don't feel like it's going to be to me the way the thought I think of is okay. Carolina last season they lost Javonte Williams and Michael Carter. They're starting 2 running backs and drop off. We saw that this year. Now Ty Chandler did get 1,000 yards over, and that was great.
Yeah,
but man, Sam Howell had to run all over the place to make up for it to a degree. And this year, for us going into next season, if we were to lose Ricky and Bam. It's not that I think we need to bring in a transfer running back like UNC had to, because because we didn't run the ball great this season, and I don't know if we really need to. We need to run the ball, but I think Houston is going to be great, and we've all seen that. Everybody's like, "Why don't we use Houston more?" Well, why don't we use? Well, we're going to, and Mims and looked good at the spring game. I know, and I'll tell you what, a lot of people. For those who don't know this name, a lot of people have been talking about the freshman running back Demi Sumo. For those who kind of are subscribing to the Pack Prides and the Inside Pack Sports and the Wolfpackers of the world, really have had, and you hear it in the comments from the coaches during the practices, preseason, all that, and even running backs. I think will be fine if they want to bring in a transfer, great. But Devin Leary is so efficient to a degree. The one thing I feel like he might need to work on in the offseason is learning to be a little more mobile, like working on that part of his game. Although, does he need to? I don't know if the word is he needs to, but I just think what Dave's got now, he can go into the recruits' houses and say, look, we've done this. I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah. And in our style offense and just in football in general, having a great star running back is not as important as it once was. Just because the way the play calling is, you utilize more people on the field. I think Leary's so good at getting the ball to so many different people. We can use both our tight ends, Trent Penix as an H-back tight end also. So, I think Jordan Houston will be perfectly fine as a starter, or who knows, if one of the younger guys kind of shines, he may not even start, but I would expect him to be the starter next year if Bam Knight also leaves with Ricky Person.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think he will be just fine. I think we'll be just fine.
I agree. And I see Beck Wolf 813's got a question, said, "Hey, not sure if y'all talked about this, but what are your thoughts about some of the guys like Thayer, Trenton, Chris, et cetera, who walked on senior day but could still return?" I don't want to really worry about that right now. I mean, they'll if they come back, they come back. It's great. I think particularly with Thayer, he's a great player, very efficient player. But I'm not if he were to leave, Rooks is really starting to flash, a lot lately, and he would play that position. So I don't really feel like you're like a gaping hole. Even with the Mecca leaving, I mean, Devin Carter's kind of the same type of position player. I'm not saying he's necessarily the same talent, but Carter's made some heck of some catches this season. He's also has some drops. So has a Messi. So
he's got the size.
Yeah, so that doesn't worry me. I think the one thing that I would be, honestly, I won't say worried is me, but that I think you would see the drop off, but no more so is Gill, the punter, man. That dude is a pro, and I don't know what we have behind him, but I think State fans need to realize how good of a punter he is, and how good of. Yeah. I mean, we talk about it's silly to kind of talk about punters, but Will Bauman, AJ Cole, now Trenton Gill, those guys we've got some pretty good players at that position.
Yeah.
And they've been critical. Like when you're on if you get on your own 35 and you can't get a drive going and then you punt it down to their 15, it's huge. That's huge.
Just between like helping out the defense where you can, they're not backed up and they can get comfortable into a series and stop them still before like midfield because you've pinned them back within their own 10 yard line. It's really underrated how good, how important and how good Trenton Gill has been.
Yeah. Yeah. So I saw a question here. It says, bowl games, ? What have you seen any bowl predictions, Michael? Which one would you like to go to for us to go to?
Yeah. So Joe Gilia does a great job of breaking this down. So pretty much I'm taking all of this from him. So credit to him. But the way the bowls are set up, they're set up into tiers. So like this year, well, it's weird this year with the playoff because it rotates and stuff, but usually the ACC champion goes to the Orange Bowl. This year, because the Orange Bowl is a playoff spot, the ACC champion goes to the Peach Bowl. So Pitt or Wake will go to the Peach Bowl. And then after that, there's 3 tier 1 bowls. The Cheez-It Bowl in Orlando, Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, and the Holiday Bowl in San Diego. So because we went to the Gator Bowl last year, we probably won't go back there. Clemson will probably go to the Gator Bowl. And then so that leaves the Cheez-It Bowl or the Holiday Bowl. And more than likely, because we're a bigger fan base, a bigger school, we'd probably get the Cheez-It Bowl in Orlando just because more fans will go to that. And then the loser of the Wake Pitt game will go to San Diego in the Holiday Bowl. And the different tiers, you can't, because there's no 8-win teams, like the next best team after Clemson, Wake, Pitt, and NC State is Miami, but they only have 7 wins. They can't jump up to one of those tier 1 bowls. So it's kind of confusing, but yeah.
Yeah.
So more than likely, I'd say you'll see State in the Cheez-It Bowl in Orlando against a Big 12 team, which will probably be either Kansas State, Iowa State, maybe Oklahoma, because they lost last night, so they're not in the Big 12 championship.
And how cool would that be to play Oklahoma right after Lincoln Riley? Uncle Lincoln Riley. By the way, if you didn't see it, Lincoln Riley is going to be the new coach at USC Trojans. Crazy, but the fact that he went from ECU to Oklahoma to USC, that's kind of not. But for NC State, I saw some matchups and us playing against Iowa State. I saw us playing some. I actually seen a few of them saying we're going to play UCLA, which would be really interesting, especially if we had to go play all the way on the West Coast in San Diego against UCLA. That would be way biased. But
that's a Holiday Bowl would be a Pac-12 opponent. Cheez-It Bowl will be a Big 12 opponent.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I don't, to me, it's all gravy at this point. The fact that you at least can hold back, you got 9 wins. That's what, to me, what mattered, getting that win against Carolina. And like I was talking to my brother, I was like, would you rather play for a championship game or beat Carolina? He's like, oh, beat Carolina. He's just kind of jokingly, but it was like, no, I hate Carolina. So
I know.
It was really fun. So where do you see that State needs to improve in the off season, Michael?
Improve is, I think offensive line is where we're going to drop off the most. I think it's hard to improve from this year, but that's because we had Icky, one of the best offensive linemen of all time. I think we'll see the biggest drop off there from losing him. So I think maybe not improve, but maintain that level of offensive line play, and I guess you could say improve it, just because we struggled running the ball in the second half of this season.
Yeah, I'd say with Icky, I don't think people like talking about it because he's one of the greatest tackles. Which, by the way, I know y'all have been giving us some heat, and somewhat rightfully so, on our top 5 player prediction or player rankings all time at NC State. That's just what we've thought, and we obviously have missed some guys here and there, but Icky we put I think at like 5 on that offensive lineman. If he were to win the Outland Trophy that he's nominated for and maybe get drafted, like some of these mock drafts have him number 3 overall.
Yeah,
which is wow. I mean, to me, like he's awesome at the run game. I actually feel like I won't say he struggles in it, but there's a lot of room for improvement with him in the passing game. Because I can think of many times the guys attacking him, like a defensive end, rushing him for like a pass plays, or just he's getting beat. So I feel like
I think he had a couple plays, yesterday against that. I forget who that was, that UNC defensive end. I think he may have given up. I know he gave up at least one. It may have been 2, but which only was his second on the whole season, but still.
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't know, man. It'll be, I think, he's going to be a great player in the NFL. It's just a matter of, that's one thing like you mentioned for him that I do see he could use some area improvement on. But, for me, we talked about this. Do you, in the offseason, we usually talk about like which coaches are we going to get rid of and what turnovers we're going to have. I don't think we fire anybody. I think the biggest thing you need to address is the run game. I mean, is that how much of it goes to offensive line? Like, really, was Chandler Zavala really that big of an impact? I don't know. Yeah. Maybe he was. But that and or is it how we're scheming up some of these plays? Doran's obviously want to be a very balanced offense. He wants to be very balanced in the run game and the passing game. We've oftentimes seen a 50-50 split in our games. Mm-hmm. I think the thing that's interesting is that with Devin Leary as accurate and as decisive and clutch as he's been, I'd rather, instead of run to pass, I'd rather pass to run. Like open up with a passing mindset that will then open up the run game. Yeah. That's what I think. But that's the only thing I can really see as has to be addressed in the offseason.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we're last in the ACC in like rushing yards per game and rushing touchdowns. And, I mean, that's great if you win games, but that's not like sustainable as a program to just not be able to run the ball. So,
right. And it's an outlier. We've in the last few years we've run the ball well. So I don't know what the deal is this year. Again, it's Beck's second year. So is it to me that would say it's more of a scheme thing, but maybe losing Zavala and really did impact State. I have no idea. I find it hard to ping it on one guy, but
he was playing right guard, right? Zavala. He's playing guard.
He was playing one of the guard positions. I can't remember if it was left or right, but he's a guard. Okay. So
it depends. It depends on kind of what the tackle and how he played with the tackle and Gibson, the center. Like I played left tackle in high school, and I mean really? On run block, yeah. At about I was actually probably weighed a little less than I do now. So, but yeah, but in run blocking, I mean it can. If you're running zone, like lots of zone reads, which I mean, we do a lot, it's kind of you're passing people off. So, I mean, that kind of communication and coordination with your guard, between the guard and the tackle and the guard and the center, like who's going to linebacker, it could affect it. But, I don't think it should have as much as it did. So,
yeah, I can agree with that.
But what was the other thing? Oh, yeah, on the coaching staff thing, you said, I don't think Doran will make any changes. I could see a situation where with all the other coaching changes going around that maybe Tony Gibson gets snatched up somewhere and then he has to find a new replacement. But I don't see Doran making any changes this year.
Yeah, I don't either. And I think that's a credit to what he's done. You think about that. A few years ago, we had Huxtable at DC and everybody was like, man, Doran's never going to let go of Huxtable. And I think Doran, other than the coaching side of things, which again, he's been able to take like 3- and 4-star guys and play him at a 4-star level for the most part of their time. He can coach well. And I think on the other side, like the management side of things, he's been able to make the moves and like even as close as he was to Huxtable, make the move to Tony Gibson, and it's paid off. But I'm gonna tell you what, man, State. Yeah, we say we don't let go of anybody, don't fire. But State is going to, on the other side, they're going to have to pay these coaches. You want them to stay? I mean, you don't think Tony Gibson potentially is going to want to listen to any coaches that want to come, some lower level school? That's like I don't know where he want to go play at, but like, you don't think he's going to want to be interested in that? They're getting mentioned on the Broyles list. Last season, Tim Beck was on his assistant coach watch list, and
right,
Doran, heck, he had the Tennessee thing a few years ago, and now, I mean, I'm not saying he would leave. I think he's got a really good thing going now, but
yeah,
you're going to pay coaches, and like this Lincoln Riley contract thing that LSU offered him, 10 years, $96 million. People realize what Dave Doran's contract is? It's like 5 years for $3.5 million.
Yeah, not even close to that.
It's like a blip on the radar compared to that. So to us, as State fans, this is like a petition, I would say a little bit. If we keep saying we want to have these kind of success, and if we like what you're seeing, which I do, I mean, 3 9-win seasons under this coach, beat Phillip Rivers. How many people thought Devin Leary would beat Phillip Rivers' touchdown or any quarterback? Russell Wilson couldn't even do it, but he's doing it now. I think we need to be paying these coaches, and we need to. That comes from the fans and donors to a degree to like open up their pocketbooks and make those donations.
And I agree, especially assistant coaches, because obviously LSU is still open now. Oklahoma's open now. I mean, not that our assistants are going to get those jobs, but it's the trickle down. Like Billy Napier at Louisiana Lafayette just got the Florida job, and now Louisiana Lafayette is open. That's a position that, I'm not saying it'll happen, but like if Tony Gibson or somebody that's kind of a
coordinator somewhere would take that job.
Yeah, exactly. Jamie Chadwell will probably get hired somewhere from Coastal Carolina. That's another head coaching position that will come open. So it's just kind of the trickle down.
Cincinnati, Cincinnati would be a pretty cool job right now.
If Luke Fickell goes anywhere,
but I mean that's one thing. So I was I just feel like State fans are going to need to do that. I mean, like even like if it's like a little bit, $100. I mean, it's tax write-off. It's tax write-off. So why not? I mean, I get everybody's situations are different, but it's just, to me, it's a thing where, we love these wins. We like seeing what we're doing, but you're not willing to pitch in a little bit. I'm not saying everybody needs to, but we like State's going to have to pay these coaches to keep the success, because people are going to notice NC State being a top 20 team. I imagine these rankings will bump them up to somewhere like beating Carolina, like 18, maybe.
Yeah. If we win a bowl game, we could finish the top 15.
Yeah. People are going to notice. Like, you think Dave Clawson's going to stick around at Wake Forest much longer? Maybe he is, but if I'm somebody like people notice. So we're going to have to as fans make those contributions because put your money where your mouth is, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so again, looking back on the season, what are your thoughts on the regular season, Michael, for how this played out?
I mean, I'm very happy. Obviously, it's disappointing we couldn't make that win the division and make the championship game, but I think at the beginning of the season, I don't think any of us were expecting that. Obviously, everybody was still expecting Clemson to be the top dog. But my kind of predictions for this season were I probably 8-4, leaning 9-3, 8-4, probably leaning towards 8-3, considering Miami was supposed to be a top 15 team. UNC started out top 10, and then Clemson and Mississippi State. Those were kind of the 4 games that I had circled that, okay, those are going to be our toughest games. Obviously, it kind of shook out differently than that, but 2 of our 3 losses still came from that bunch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, on Saturday watching BC get destroyed by Wake Forest wasn't fun.
That was a bummer.
But just overall, definitely happy.
Yeah, to me, I look back on this season and State beat how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 teams in the ACC by double-digit points. And you lost your losses in the ACC for Miami and Wake Forest were a total. You basically, if you had scored,
Yeah.
4 points, you would have tied both games, or at least you want to say
Yeah.
if you had scored 6 more points in between both games, you would have been 10 and 2.
11 and 1. No,
11 and 1. Excuse me. So you're
Undefeated
6
in the
points
ACC.
away from being 11 and 1.
Yeah.
I think you could argue this is one of the best seasons State's had. And I think particularly when you look at how we won the games and how we played, like we didn't. I mean, I think the only thing I look back on is, man, I wish we would have run the ball better. And I wish we would have gotten the wins against Miami and Wake Forest, particularly the Wake Forest game. I think the Miami game, in some regard, kind of gave us like a sorry, my fantasy team going off. Basically, I think it would have given us I think the Miami game helped us wake up a little bit to know that you can lose to anybody, and it's not. And now you get Miami was playing really hot, and I think Van Dyke is going to be a problem the next few years for the Coastal. And I'm really thankful we don't have to play him.
I know I think he's second. I think he finished the season second in the ACC, like in conference games only in passing behind Brennan Armstrong, and he only played like he didn't even play the whole season, and it was just like he's gonna be Miami's gonna be improved next year.
Yeah, but I'm very excited, and I don't know if State fans know how to process the success sometimes, because I feel like we just get down on ourselves and we're like, okay, like, oh, we blew it, we did this, we did win, but man, we really sucked in this area, and I'm like, enjoy it. Like, you don't get these opportunities. The fact that you have this kind of success doesn't happen everywhere. And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and I understand that Clemson's had a down year, and you want that 1 year, but it's like if you have the sustained success which we've seen the last couple of years, except for 2019, 1 year eventually will break through. But as long as you're continually winning 8, 9, potentially 10 games, then it'll come.
It'll come. I mean, like we've never had this kind of level of sustained success in State's history for the most part.
Maybe the early 90s under Dick Sheridan.
I mean, heck, the last time we went undefeated at home was 1986. I was not born then. So, it's really, I know we talk about this, you, me, Leighton, we all talk about like, this is a great time to be a State fan. Like, even like the women's cross country team won a national championship. Basketball, we could talk about that. I feel like it's going to be a little bit of a rough year, but for
the men,
but women are looking great. We talk about Cunane and Diamond Johnson and Jakia Brown Turner. Those seem to be the best 3 players on your team right now. Not unexpected, but it's really exciting to be a State fan right now. And I really don't want State to look back on this season and look back on like, man, I wish I enjoyed that more. Like, enjoyed the fact that we beat Carolina. Yeah, you could argue we could have lost
crazy fashion.
Yeah, you probably watched that. This will be a game that will be talked about for tens of years from now, like decades from now. It'll be something they look back on, like back in 2021. They with 2070. They'll be talking about this.
It was like a 0.1% chance we would win that game in the last minute, and we scored twice in a minute and a half.
Yeah, and to me, like, I think I look at it as payback for the Gio Bernard punt return from a few years ago. Like, that ripped our hearts out. Well, that ripped Carolina's hearts out right there.
Yeah.
So,
man, I forgot about that. I didn't forget about it, but yeah,
it still stings a little bit. But just as State fans, like, let's enjoy this. Be proud. Celebrate with Dave Doran and the team, the seniors, all those. it's just exciting. It's really, really fun. I'm really looking forward to watching how they play in the bowl game, where they end up. I do get it. I wish we could have played for the championship game this season, but I think, like you said, Michael, you have that continued sustained success. It's going to come, and I would say State's the team that's given Clemson the biggest challenge consistently in the ACC year to year to year. So we've been close before. It can happen. We could beat them in a year. Clemson's supposed to be really good. We could.
Yeah, like
I mean, it just could happen.
Yeah, 2017, we almost beat them.
And Doran's finally got that off his back. He finally did get the win against Clemson.
Yeah.
So we can't. I feel like this is a year that's like a milestone year for the program, and
it does kind of feel like that.
Yeah, and I think that win against Carolina will really mean a lot. But anyways, just let's look forward to watching the. Quick question: would you rather Pitt win or Wake win this championship game?
Oh, Pitt for sure.
See, part of me wants Wake to win because they're always terrible, but I don't want to hear that. I get tired of hearing
I know
Dave Clawson's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah,
he's a good coach. We get it, but I mean, he hasn't had this. Like, I think we think he's a greater coach than he actually is at times. Like, but this is something I don't really care. I think it'll be interesting to watch. I think ACC is kind of like bummed that. I bet you somewhere they're kind of bummed Wake Forest team that won, but I
mean, they just don't have as big of a fan base.
They won't travel as well. I mean, it's in Charlotte. That's the only plus for them. But it'll be fun, and I'll be excited to see where we get these bowl games. Maybe it is San Diego, and maybe there's some Wolfpack fans that want to travel to the West Coast.
It's nice. I went out there in August. San Diego's pretty nice,
but we'll see. So
before we sign off here, I want to shout out Greg, who's in the chat. I don't know if you saw it, but he was the guy when they broke his leg storming the field.
Yeah, I saw the tweet, Greg, and that was pretty funny. And no one, if anybody ever questioned if you cared about State, you just show them the picture. Carrie is like, "Hey, man, I broke my leg celebrating. It's okay."
There you go.
So. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're just, like I said, really exciting time to be a State fan. And this has been, I think, a historic season, milestone season for State football. And they still have a chance to be even more historic, getting a 10th win.
Yeah.
But we'll have more content for you guys coming up. And again, hope you all have had a great Thanksgiving and going into the Christmas season. And go Pack, everybody.
Go Pack.